Hey everyone, Season 70 is here, and we're gonna figure out the best ways to start strong. And it's important to get the right starting path, because not only do you get a good season, but a fun one too. And we'll do that by first looking at starting troops, then some tech you can skip, with the main thing after being finding that unlock order. So with the starting troops, everyone's gonna be starting with Cryos and Zooks. A pretty unconventional combo, but maybe it can work at the start. You don't get a lot of defenses, machine guns, and flames. And Zooks do high damage, so you should be able to get through the base. It also depends what layout there is. So at 2 ER, you can probably have 1 ER on the left and right, and somehow drop Zooks where they split in both sides. Because there's not a ton of defense, it shouldn't be too bad in terms of time. And towards the end of 2 ER, you do have medics, but not really going to be a good troop to use. In warships, it's not just about finishing the base, you want to be fast too. So any boat you take away from a damage dealer and give it to a medic, that's less speed you're going to get for the hit. And if you're using Zooks that have not a lot of health anyways, medics aren't going to do much to keep them alive. Now the cool thing about next season is we got shield gens, but they really get their value with more building health and even just health on the ERs. So at these early levels of 2 and 3 ER, because there's not a lot of health, shields aren't going to have a lot of value. And if we're using Zooks, they deal so much damage anyways, once they get to the ER, a shield might just slow down by 1-2 seconds max. So we'll get it at some point, but not for a while. What we really want is a defense that is actually gonna kill troops, and that's as soon as we go to 3 ER. We get that laser beam right away, and if we're running Zooks and got a level 3 laser beam, you know it's gonna do something. So one of the first things we're gonna pick up, and even looking at the 3 ER layout, you see you get more dead ends on the left and right, kinda looks like a guy flexing, but if you have a laser beam tucked in the back, you can get a lot of good angles from it, nice chance to kill a bunch of Zooks, makes that laser beam even stronger. Then looking at troop wise, still running Cryos and Zooks. We got warriors at 3 ER, but if you look at the deck, you really need warriors to go down one dead end and go to the next one, and if they have to get to every ER, it might just take longer than spreading out Zooks and letting them fan out. Maybe at max 3 ER they can do something, but we'll see later on that once we get to 4 ER, there's a lot better options. And the other troop you have at 3 ER is mechs. Even though they can stun stuff, you don't really need that when you already got Cryos. Plus, Cryos are free and mechs cost 24 keys, so you can use those keys to move ahead in the tree. And moving ahead means going to 4 ER, seeing that deck layout. It's gonna be one of the best in the season. Not only do you have those dead ends like in 3 ER, but it fully wraps around towards the back. And especially when you have deck layouts with a really small ramp to drop troops, it means you'd have to go all the way around, and even splitting them up takes a while. So keeping in mind this is a really defensive deck layout, see what other troops we got. Right after 4 ER we got rifles, so finally a good meat shield we can use. And when you combine it with the Cryos and Zooks we're already using, it's a pretty solid strategy. You got rifles as a meat shield, Zooks to do the damage, and maybe mix in one Cryo if defenses get too bad. Since all these troops are either unlocked for you or on the main path, this is what we're going to be using for most of 4 ER. Later at 4 is tanks. It's still on the main path, so we can use it, just depends on if it's ever going to be faster than Rifle Zooks. Maybe unlikely since Rifle Zooks just do so much damage, but if any case it becomes like that, you can always pivot. And even though it's not a troop, the strongest tech we're going to see this stage of 4 ER is going to be critters. Any season where we have critters early and having no normal mines, they're going to be really strong. Especially after that buff they got in the last few updates, now they're affected by troop damage and troop health, so they'll be stronger than ever. It's the only thing we got to distract that laser beam. And if that's dead, you can also use crits to maybe kill other buildings, distract stuff, even kill an ER. So no matter what path you take, you sorta wanna rush to these guys. Troop wise, that's all we got, at least until 4 ER. There are a couple heroes though. If you do want a hero, you can decide between Sparky or Brick. Normally, you don't want to get a hero, especially if it's off path. They're so expensive, being 42 keys. It's better to rush ahead, unless rushing ahead doesn't make sense. So one way we can find out is look a bit into 5 ER. Already knowing that this is a 4 ER layout, we know it's a pretty defensive deck, really good against all troops. But then when you go to 5 ER, even though it's the same type of layout, that left ramp opening up changes everything. Because now it goes from one of the best decks to really one of the worst. Dropping on both sides means you can do a split hit, get way faster times. 5 ER, not an advantage at all. And if you look at the tree, there is something to think about. Even though the deck layout at 5 isn't that great, you do have a strong troop there, Seekers. Now the thing with Seekers next season is them and other strong troops like HCs, bombers, lasers, they're all locked behind this penalty node. One of the 3 strong protos you can pick up early, you gotta get rid of one of them to get those troops. So it's mainly asking yourself, do you want to have a good middle of the season or a good end of the season? If you just care about the middle, and Seekers are gonna be really strong when you get them. If you rush there, they should be every 4 ER, because they don't have shock launchers. Even later at 5, you got a ton of offense for Seeks. They only start getting tough towards the end when building health catches up, and the very last node of the tree is going to be 6 hot pots. But as strong as Seekers might be at 5 ER and around that point, we're not really going to get them because if you don't have the penalty, sure you can go Seeks, make them work, and once they're too difficult you can just swap to a different troop. You can't do that when you're going to minus a penalty each time. So if you want to play the long game, but still have an okay time, we'll skip Seeks but choose some other strong tech. Mainly defenses to either slow them down or let them not finish. So going back to whether Sparky or Brick is a better choice, really the answer comes down to what we talked about just before the heroes, and that's having critters be so strong next season. Because of their buffs, Sparky is also affected, her passive critters and critter swarm, they're all gonna be really strong. So if you gotta choose a hero, it's gonna be Sparky. And that's really what the starting troops are gonna look like. Right away you have Cryos and Zooks, later switching to Rifle, Cryo, Zook, getting to critters, and then if you're gonna get a hero, maybe Sparky. Even if at that point Seekers start beating you, know that once you max out at every ER, there should be a lot of defenses for Seekers to get through. Now that we looked at starting troops and deck layouts, we can see what other pieces of tech we can skip. And there's a reason why some people get ahead in warships. It's the difference between unlocking the right stuff or just getting whatever you want. So first we can skip smoke. It's not really going to help on these kind of strategies with Rifle Zooks. We'll also ignore medics. Like we said before, it's not going to add much to hits if we want to be fast. Warriors are going to be tough to use with no shock bombs and the deck layouts. And also skipping mechs, because we don't really need to halt defenses when you got Cryos. All 3 of the troops we just skipped have a 1 troop boost, so same reason we're going to ignore that. And medkits, while not useless, there's going to be other offense that should help your hits out more. You got Brick you can skip, and if you're going to choose one hero, Sparky is the way to go. And the last tech you can ignore is that other troop boost. Even though we're going to be using rifles, you don't really need a few extra levels to make them worth it. And making this list of tech that you can ignore, it just narrows down the tree for an unlock order. With that, we can start moving towards 3 ER right away. First one picking up 30 troop damage. And right after 3 ER, getting that strong laser beam. If we're gonna be running Zooks, Laser Beam strong against them. Then getting some cannons, 30 building health for that 5th unlock, followed by Flare. We can't go 4 ER just yet, we need a little more tech level, so we need one more unlock right before. And between troop health and troop damage, Zooks already do so much damage that having a bit extra isn't gonna matter much. But troop health, when you have that laser beam, it's gonna maybe keep Zooks alive a bit longer, and if not them, for sure rifles once we get there. So then, moving towards 4 ER, then rifles. We do want to get to 4 ER pretty soon, since we saw the deck layout and how strong it is. Now after rifles, we know we want to get to critters, but we can choose between building damage or boom cannons. And since we're using rifle Zooks, they're squishy troops, we want to do building damage to keep flames, machine guns, laser beam, all the stronger. But just making our way to critters, using them especially to distract that laser. Now after critters, our options open up a bit. We do want to stay 4 ER for a while, so looking at some other offense and defense we can get. Since critters are strong, we do want to counter them a bit, so we'll pick up mortars. And then after those is a good time to get troop damage, not so much for the Zooks but for the critters themselves. After that, a bit more defense so we can get boom cannon snipers, more so for the actual buildings than killing Zooks and rifles. And now that we got so much defense, is a good time to get a hero, so we can pick up Sparky and aim for easier hits. These are a lot of unlocks, but it should last about a few days into the season, pretty much a max out 4 ER. Once you get Sparky, maybe some other defense like Sky Shield or Shock Mines, even a shield gen would help now, but just want to be careful not going 5 ER too early. We do know that if we get so much at 4 ER, those people who rush Seekers in a few days, they might have a solid chance of beating us, but knowing that their time is also limited. As strong as Seekers might be in the middle of the season, towards the end, gonna be a lot tougher. But those are the unlock orders, and let me know what you think about the season and if you'd do anything different. If you want to support the channel when buying in-game stuff, you can use code STONEHEART. It's much appreciated. But that's gonna be it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.